Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is going to be a little short of the top 10, but once again, I'm not really focusing on the top 10 portion. But what this is the next group of notes in my grading series. Now, I'm filming this by my front window so that I get direct sunlight. That'll help show all the creases and stuff like that and all the different notes. And hopefully it'll make it easier for you guys to determine for your own notes what the grades may be. Last time I went through notes that were 8, 10, and 15. Today I'm going to show one note that was a 15, and then I've got, I think, 6 that are 20s, and I'll show 125, just to give you a little bit of a top and bottom range on some of those notes like that. So this basically is exploring a 20, which is very fine. So I will back up one notch to a choice 15. And a choice 15, it says, this note may look like a very fine note, but upon closer examination, it is found to have too many folds or too much circulation to warrant the very fine grade. And I showed this one in the last one. This one is from 1862. It's a $2, and it was graded 15 net. And you really got to look close on this particular note on the camera to see what they're talking about. But to hold this note in hand, you are going to be able to see all of the different creases that are through it, and just the overall general handling. The note is stained, the note is dirty, the note is handled, the note is repaired. So it does have numerous flaws on it, but this one's probably undergraded, probably should have been a 20. However, even a note this good, like I said, they rated a 15. So there's a lot of subjectiveness when it comes to grading notes, but this was the example that I had that was a 15. So let's move on to what is a 20, a very fine 20. This note is moderately circulated with numerous folds, mild soiling. There are no serious detractions, but there may be minor defects. Okay, that is the definition. So let's take a look at our first note. 1918 Federal Reserve Bank note. This one is from New York, and this one is graded a 20. Now you'll notice that there are numerous folds. Let's see, I want to make sure I get sunlight on this so you can see all the different folds that are in this particular note. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. You can see there's parallel folds in here. That one's just the line there. But here you can see the folds. If I turn this one over, they become much more clear. You're talking more folds than can be counted. Now, with more folds that can be counted, you can see it does say minor rust, and it does have minor rust right over there. More folds that can be counted, but generally speaking, the note is decent. So you don't have to go through counting all the different lines. But a note like this, like I said, it's intact, it's in decent shape. There's nothing that detracts from the note. It just looks like a circulated note. And that is what's going to give it the designation of a 20. The next note we're going to bring out, a little bit older, National Bank note, brownback. This is from 1882, if I recall, and you're going to see the same characteristics. First of all, looking at the edges of the note is all there. There's no tears or tape or holes. There's nothing missing from the note, so it's in one piece. That's good. Looking at the edges, that's where it becomes very clear the number of wrinkles, the number of folds, the number of creases, and you can see all that through there. Once again, they're too numerous to count, but the overall shape of the note is decent. And when you look at the imagery on the note, the pictures are clear enough. You don't have any of that the fading, or I don't want to say pixelation, because that wouldn't be the case at all. On the back, once again, when you start tipping it in the light, all of the creases show up, all of the little folds. But like I said, overall, the note is a decent note. That's what gives it the 20 grade. Another note, this one here is a 1901 legal tender, and the sunlight once again highlights all of those folds and creases. You can definitely tell that this note has been handled. You can see the major crease right over here, major folds throughout the entire note here. It does have a slight grainy appearance, just slight. So I was a little nervous when I sent this one in, but the note is intact. It's all there. It's not holed. It's not missing any pieces. There's no tears or anything like that. The back does show the number of folds. Now, there's not a lot of, there's dirt, but there isn't any staining. And I think that is what gave it the grade that it was. I think if this note had some major stains or major rust or something like that, it wouldn't have gotten this. So this is probably close to the bottom end of a 20, just because of the graininess of the picture. Like I said, here's a 15, and the 15, look at the picture here compared to the picture here. This one was definitely underrated. This one might have been a hair over, but yeah. Being able to compare the two gives you an idea why, when I was guessing ranges for my grades, I would give a range and not a specific grade. And that's important because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into a specific grade, because now you're also talking about value. So when you look at it, you have to make a judgment call as to the approximate value of the note based on the grade. And you want to give yourself a little bit of leeway if the note isn't graded. All right, another note that also came out a 20. Here is my porthole. Now, my porthole note, I can see that it does have, once again, more folds than can be counted. This one here, this here, this here. You can tell the note has been handled. But looking at the note, even though it's been handled, it hasn't been brutalized. The whole note is intact. You can see every portion of the note. Nothing is missing from the note. It's just a well-circulated note. Looking at the back, yeah, more folds than you can count. Yeah, it's a little dirty. It's not perfect. They say that there's a little bit of rust. And on the front, yeah, there's an unfortunate placement of rust right on Lincoln's forehead. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it was perfect, it wouldn't get a 20. But a note like this, it's a great note because, well, in a 20, most books list the value of a note that's graded 20. Shows all the circulation that you'd expect, so there's no real big surprises there. The next note that I've got, I don't have a whole lot, so there's only one other one after this one. This is my 1923 $10 legal tender. This is my poker chip. This one I did not send in to get graded. Someone else sent this. I bought this note graded, and you can see on the back, that's why it's called the poker chip. The back of this note is pretty clean. If I turn it in the sunlight, you can see along the bottom edge, you can see a lot of the creases and folds there, and a little bit of the dirt. Not too bad. The part that does surprise me, though, is the front of the note. There's a lot of fading in the seals, so that with the fading, that indicates some sun damage. And I have the feeling it's the fading on the red that makes the portrait in the center seem much worse than it actually is. To me, it's not grainy, but it is faded. And there's a difference between grainy and faded. Faded, like I said, indicates sun damage. Grainy, that indicates that the paper quality has been pretty much destroyed. So that's another thing to look at. Just because you have a faded image doesn't necessarily detract from the value, as it would if the image was grainy. So fade versus green, clearly this is faded, but it's not grainy, so there's no damage. There's sun damage, but there's not damage to the actual paper. And that's the important part to point out with that one. And the last note I've got here, and also a 20, this is from 1922, a $10 gold certificate. Looking at the front of this note, you'd think it would grade, 25 to 30. I mean, it's not that bad of a note. Here's the thing. It didn't get an EPQ. Okay, EPQ is exceptional paper quality, which I'm going to get into more in the next video. But because it didn't get an EPQ, that implies that something was done to this note. The note was cleaned, the note was pressed. They did something to alter the paper quality of this note. And if I look, the note is bright white. The note is really nice, really clean. And then you look at the back. And on the back, you get all this dirt. You see this major crease running through the back. You see the dirt got into all the nooks and crannies of that particular crease. You can see a very dark crease on this side. You can see the dirt, the heaviness of the crease. Looking across the top, you can see all the different creases here. And like you said, this doesn't necessarily match the quality of the front. That indicates that this note was probably cleaned at some point. Now, it's not like cleaning a coin where the act of cleaning the coin literally scratches up the coin, but cleaning a note does affect the paper quality. And when you affect the paper quality, you lose the EPQ, the exceptional paper quality. You can get an EPQ on a dirty note. So it's not worth cleaning the note to try to improve the grade. You actually just destroyed the grade. Anyway, that takes care of all of the 20s that I have. And just as an example here, this one is the next step up. This is a 25. Now, when you look at this note, what you're going to start to notice now is, yes, there are creases. There are pretty major creases in this one. There is a little bit of dirt, not nearly as much dirt, so the note itself is a little bit brighter. You can see this one actually is holed in the center just from those folds. But why this one got the 25 is if you start looking where those folds are, here's a fold, which means there's no fold right here. And if you look at that, that's pretty good. There's no fold here. Look at that. That's pretty good. So here's a note where the paper is decent. It just happens to have some folds. And it's the number of folds that are in this particular note that lower this note to a 25. And I think this one is split too, right? Yeah, this one says split. One of these, this one here was split, I think, all the way to the edge. But the paper itself, you can read, if I let this focus, you can read everything that's written there. So it's actually in really nice shape with the exception of those creases. So hopefully that helps distinguish a 20 from what they graded a 25. Like I said, there is a lot of judgment calls made when stuff gets graded, and when you're picking apart a 20 versus a 25, it's almost basically what day of the week did this, or what side of the bed did this guy get up on when he decided to grade it. It's almost that close. But there are distinct differences, like I just pointed out. It's a matter of what they credit or what they don't. Anyway, that's what I've got for you guys this week, comparing a 15 to a bunch of 20s and a 25. If you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading your comments. See you next week.